We need to be extremely careful that as we fight this leftist evil, we understand what we're fighting against and how they operate. There's a playbook. If you look at all of these violent leftist movements that sadly were eventually successful, like Mao in China and Pol Pot and the Viet Cong, uh, and the North Vietnamese in Vietnam, there is always violence, but there is the purpose of the violence is gaslighting. The gaslighting is the true heart of their campaign. It's how they gain public support. So essentially, the cycle works like this: they commit a horrible act of violence, and then any attempt by you to stop them, to stop this violence, to fight back against it, is labeled as oppression, authoritarianism, uh, fascism. Trust me, their calling of us fascists is not going to stop. It's going to escalate, and their violence will escalate um, the more they see an opportunity to label our response as fascism. So we really have to be mindful of the fact that there's two tracks to this thing. There's the violence itself, which does have to be stopped, but there's the gaslighting that really has to be stopped and fought. And unfortunately, some of that does include being mindful of how our actions are going to make it easier or harder for the left to gaslight the public. Um, so this thing with Jimmy Kimmel, of course, I'm glad that such a vile person was taken off, and I think it's justified. I don't think it's a violation of free speech because the government did not arrest him. He is not being charged with any crime. This is the market saying we don't appreciate this thing. But I'm also worried about how it is feeding into this cycle of historic leftist violence, where now they will be able to shift in their mind. They'll be able to feed their movement by saying that they're the victims now, that their violence is justified because look, these repressions are being taken against them, even though any repression being taken against them is a result of their violence. That's not the way they're going to gaslight it. They're going to retroactively say their violence was justified because of the response to the violence. This is the way it always works with all leftist violence. And so I'm not saying that we shouldn't be fighting back. I'm just saying that we need to fight back very intelligently. Our information operations need to be better than theirs. We need the truth out there, just overwhelming their gaslighting. And at the same time, while we're dismantling these terror networks and while we're looking at places that provide aid and comfort to these terror networks like Reddit and Discord and so forth, we just need to be mindful of whether our actions are actually helping our cause or whether they're just feeding into their cycle of violence plus gaslighting.